There are all sorts of realities around us, different dimensions, billions of parallel universes all stacked up against each other. The void is the space in between, containing absolute nothing. Imagine that. Nothing. No light, no dark, no up, no down, no life, no time, without end. My people call it the void, the Eternals call it the howling, but most people call it hell. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The Army of Ghosts and Doomsday, written by Russell T Davies and directed by Graham Harper. Yes, classic series director Graham Harper returning to the revived series to direct the story, this time doing the ultimate story in season 2. We'll also be tackling Tardisodes 12 and 13, written by Gareth Roberts and directed by Ashley Way. This was a massive deal when it came out, for multiple reasons. For example, Billie Piper's departure from the role, being the last character from the start of season 1. First the Ninth Doctor left, and now Billie Piper's leaving after David Tennant's. This is also David Tennant's first finale, but that's not what this story is remembered for. This story is remembered for being the first interaction on a televised screen between the Daleks and the Cybermen. Yes, the first time in which they've had a confrontation with each other. They have appeared in stories together. A great example is The Five Doctors. However, they each only have scenes to themselves. They never meet up, with this one being the exception. This is when the Daleks and the Cybermen finally interact with each other. Well, I say finally, but these Cybermen are from the parallel universe, which was reintroduced in The Age of Steel and The Rise of the Cybermen, the two-parter midway through the series. In fact, this story tackles with a lot of plot elements that were building up throughout series 2. We had the parallel universe and the Cybermen. We also have Torchwood. Yes, this is the first time in which we have a physical appearance of Torchwood. They've had some mentions, and we've had some organisations that are based around Torchwood, like the Torchwood Archives in the Satan Pits and the Impossible Planet. But this is the first time we get a proper seeing what Torchwood is, after they were mentioned throughout a few stories in Series 1 and Series 2, and we saw the origins of Torchwood in the story Tooth and Claw. So this story has a lot of build-up to it, and a lot of people like it. This is a really popular story. Me personally, we'll get into it, but I don't like it as much as most people do. But there is still a lot to like here. Now, I got this story from the Cyberman collection. I'll show you the cover. I think I've shown the Cybermen collection before in my Rise of Cybermen and Age of Steel thing. That's what the cover looks like on the DVD usually, but this is just the leaflet from it. And I've obviously printed out my own cover to fit it in. So unlike my previous new series updates, this story just contains this one story. It doesn't have any other adventures on it. So kind of interesting. I found this one off the internet. I can't remember for the life of me who made this. I printed this out before Christopher Doctor Who DVD covers, which I normally get my DVD covers from. He normally makes these, so before he made that, and I wanted to get a cover, I made this. I think it's off DeviantArt. That's the cover with the what's his name? Dalek. It's not Dalek Khan. Dalek Sek. It's one of the Daleks in this story. Here's the spine, if anyone's interested. I don't like the BBC logo there. I think it really mishaps, and you can see like a Cyberman, half of a Cyberman, but that looks really odd. But I think it's a pretty good job, and it does the job well. And here's the back. Makes it clear that it wasn't me who made this. So there you go. That's the setup of the adventure. That's everything you need to know beforehand. But is the story any good? Is it an adventure worth watching? So let's get into that. But before that, of course, we've got to talk about the Tardisodes. In terms of continuity, it goes Tardisode 12, then Army of Ghosts, then Doomsday, oddly enough, and Tardisode 13, annoyingly enough, actually is set during the final battle in Doomsday. So, unless you want to pause the story and then watch the Tardisode, I suggest watching it in the order of Tardisode 12, Army of Ghosts, Doomsday, Tardisode 13, if you want to watch it like that. But yeah, anyway, let's get on to the Tardisodes to begin with. Tardisode 12 is a pretty decent one. We see somebody who's doing some investigations on Torchwood, and he talks about these ghosts that are appearing. We never get a good glimpse of a ghost. We only see a shadow of one appearing, but nobody seems to be shocked by this. Nobody seems to be surprised by the fact there is ghosts. But this guy is more interested in what Torchwood is doing and how they are linked with the ghosts. Interestingly enough, the guy who plays this individual, the guy who's like obsessed with Torchwood, he would later go on to play Prim in season 11 of Doctor Who, in the story Demons of the Punjab, which is just an awesome little fact, and it's really strange because I don't think I've ever watched this Tardisode before doing this marathon series, so that was very surprising to see him in here. And he's taken this to his boss because he's like a reporter and stuff, only for people like Men in Black coming to take him away as the boss of this news reporter is given a different story by Torchwood, something to do with some girls, so basically they're covering their tracks. And that is the Tardisode. And that is a really great way to set up Torchwood. They are basically the secret they're basically the Men in Black of Doctor Who. This mysterious organisation which are a bit sinister and are more interested in the fact of keeping everything alien secret and stuff. And that kind of gives the impression of what Torchwood is, of what Torchwood has been. So that's kind of interesting. Tardisode 13, the final Tardisode ever to air, is just a news broadcast talking about the battle of the Cybermen and how they're coming into people's homes, they're breaking in, only for seemingly another race of highly intelligent creatures trapped within metal casings, also coming in to murder a bunch of people in London, as the news broadcast gets interrupted and you see the bottom half of a Dalek. It's a pretty weak entry in the series of the Tardisodes, in my opinion, especially how it fits inside an episode. I found that kind of frustrating, but it does the job well. I would have liked to have seen... Sorry, my leg was getting in the shot there. I would have liked to have seen more people's reacting to the ghosts being revealed to be Cybermen. But the Cybermen in this story, well, we'll get into them. So let's get into the actual main event at hand. The Doctor takes Rose back to Jackie Tyler to take him back home. But something seems to be off as Jackie is first of all, she's just really excited, and I love the warm energy between all our characters at the start of the story. Sometimes I feel like the 10th Doctor and the Rose era of the show, that bumbly trying to be that warm feeling doesn't always work. But here I think it does. And there's one reason for it. One reason that makes this bubbly character interactions work so well in this story. Jackie Tyler gets a prominent role. This is the story in which Jackie becomes a very big figure in the series. This is a shame because this will be her last regular appearance. But I love every interaction that she has with the Doctor. I love that later on she basically becomes the companion of this story as the Doctor tries to hide Rose's identity at the moment. I really love that scene. I'll get more into that at the moment. But Jackie talks about her grandfather, Rose's grandfather, Jackie Tyler's dad, who, according to Rose, had passed away 5-10 years ago, and thinks that Jackie's lost the plot until a ghost just appears inside Jackie Tyler's kitchen. And nobody's screaming, nobody's shouting, everybody just seems to be fine by the fact that ghosts are real. I absolutely love this premise. Essentially what has happened is that, yes, the ghosts appeared and everybody was absolutely scared of their wits. However, that was a few months ago. Now people have just settled in and they just consider themselves lucky. Now they can interact with the dead, with the people from the other side, that we can finally see and interact with ghosts. How amazing is that? And the world just is now turned ghosts into a very popular part of their society, as we see news broadcasts in a way of like a weather forecasts about how like ghosts are appearing on the UK. We see people wearing ghost shirts. We see a Trisha show in which somebody is saying that they're in love with a ghost. But there's one important little scene, and that is the EastEnders clip. In this story, they have a scene in which the Doctor, Rose and Jackie are watching EastEnders, an episode in which one of the characters is interacting with a ghost. Why is this so important? If you just watched it on its own, you would have just thought, right, this is just a nice little fun gag, because, BBC own both properties. But to a Doctor Who nerd like myself, to one who is absolutely fanatic about the show, who knows every single thing about its canon and its continuity, this means, officially, this is finally the nail in the coffin, that Dimensions in Time is not canon. For a lot of people, that's fantastic news. Personally, I am kind of bummed out, because I like to think that everything televised is canon if it has an official Doctor actor in it as their respective roles, but that story is just god-awful, and probably deserves to be forgotten in continuity. So that is like a main little topic of interest for there. Army of Ghosts states, right, Dimensions in Time, 100% not canon. Doctor Who is EastEnders is a television show in Doctor Who canon. They don't exist within the same universe. Saying that, however, in EastEnders, Doctor Who is a fictional TV show as well. So, the canon on either series makes no sense. Like, what if a character from EastEnders is watching Army of Ghosts? Do they then watch the Doctor watching EastEnders? Like, what? Like, you know, can you see what I'm getting at here? But that's just a little, just a little topic of interest for anybody out there. Now, the story starts off, both episodes start off with Rose giving this teaser on how her life was once amazing and it's great, but then Torchwood happened and the ghosts and the war, and this is the day that I died, which is a great hook, but looking into the story retroactively, it's a huge cop-out, and is really frustrating, because these are the pre-credit sequence, these are the scenes that are supposed to get us into the story, and they do on your first viewing, but after your second viewing, the tease feels like just that, a tease. But anyway, so the Doctor and Rose investigate, and they track it down to Canary Wharf, where it turns out that Canary Wharf is actually a Torchwood base. Specifically, it's Torchwood Tower, or Torchwood 1, led by Fiona Hartman. Now, Fiona Hartman is a very, very important character here. There's not a lot of characters to Torchwood. We see some soldiers in the background, we see how they run things, but in terms of characters, the people we meet, there's not really a lot. There's this character and this other guy who's a scientist who is doing some research on this sphere that came out of a rift in space and time right at the top of Canary Wharf, and it turns out Canary Wharf was actually built for Torchwood to get access to the rift, and which they hope to use as a power source so that Britain can become completely independent. Now, the organisation itself highly relies on getting the ideas out through our small group of characters, and I mean actual characters that we spend time with. So Fiona Hartman is a very important character here, and she does such a fantastic job here. I can't remember the girl who plays her, the woman who plays her, what her name is. Trishy Ann Oberman. She does a fantastic job of playing this kind of polite, posh, but clearly hard-headed and determined character. And for some reason, she just always sticks out in my mind. She's a character I just can't seem to forget. It's very strange like that. And basically, everybody at Torchwood has been grown up with the stories of the Doctor, so they know the Doctor, but they treat them as a sort of guest at first. And they kind of like know about the Doctor's history, and it's like, and originally the Doctor comes out alone, and it's like, there's no point hiding anything from us. We know that you travel with us, so come on, let's see your companion. It's like, right, okay. And the Doctor puts his arm out to try and reach for someone, only to accidentally get Jackie. And this is the thing I'm on about, where the Doctor pretends Jackie is Rose, and we get some really, really fun moments with them. The Doctor, I just wish we had more stories with Jackie Tyler. Big finish. If you're watching this, I know you're not, but if you're watching this, make a box set, an entire box set of David Tennant's 10th Doctor with Jackie Tyler. That's all I'm asking, okay? Well, that and the 9th Doctor. Actually, when this video is out, the 9th Doctor audiobooks will be out by then. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. Now, in Torchwood, they've been infiltrated by Cybermen. The story doesn't hide their appearance at all. They make it right early on that the Cybermen are involved. How they're involved and what they're doing, what their plans are, we don't know yet. They control the minds of some of the staff at Torchwood. One of them is played by Friedma, aka Martha Jones. Yes, she actually made an appearance in Doctor Who prior to playing Martha Jones. So that's a really nice little fun fact, especially how Martha is just one of my favourite characters. They do state in Smith and Jones, I believe it is, that this was her identical cousin, which is a bit odd. I guess Russell T Davies really wanted to use Smith for Smith and Jones. Martha Jones, sorry. Jones. So he had it so that they're cousins and not sisters, which is really bizarre. But anyway. And slowly and surely, we're starting to learn more. We get the Doctor talking about the Void Ship, a thing which is created in to exist within the void, the gaps between reality. The effect on this is really, really odd. It's like, it looks like a bad effect, but the story is basically, it's like, yeah, when you look at it, it's supposed to look weird. It's supposed to look like it gets inside your head. And with that context, with that look, with that appearance, it's just awe-inspiring. It's something that would have been a weakness in the narrative and the effects, but Russell T Davies has turned it into a plus, and the mill as well. So very cool. It's revealed then that the Cybermen are the ghosts, and they have taken over the world as Rose is trapped with the Void ship and is reunited with Mickey Smith. Hooray! After his appearance in The Age of Steel, in which he is departed, he finally returns, and here his character is completely different, a lot more like Ricky from the alternate universe. Gone is the comedic side of Mickey, and is much more serious, much more in tone. He is clearly a soldier at this point, and is working for the alternate universe's version of Torchwood, who instead of fighting aliens are hell-bent on fighting Cybermen. So that universe, everything is on Earth. There's no such thing as aliens, or at least as far as we know, in that dimension, which actually gets a name in this story, Pete's World. And it seems to be getting damaged as things are bleeding in from one universe to another, which, as the Doctor stated in a previous story, should be impossible now that the Time Lords are dead. So every time someone does this, it breaks a fabric of reality. There's a lot of explanation of what the Void is and how this universe thing, but David Tennant and some of the dialogue he's given is so great here. Two scenes I like that sticks out in my mind is when he's talking about how it fractures the universe and they bleed, and these ghosts are bleeding through, and he smashes the glass, and he's like, too many ghosts, and he taps it and the glass smashes. That is just a phenomenal scene, and it's followed up then by the next scene, which I want to talk about, which really sums up the 10th Doctor, and really is what I think of the 10th Doctor. It's one of those scenes where I think, right, that's the 10th Doctor. The Doctor starts off shouting at Yvonne, telling her to not not activate the ghosts, do not send the ghosts over. But she's insistent on setting up the ghost machine. And first of all, the Doctor's like shouting at her. He's like, he's doing his best. He's like, if you do it, you could break a hole in the fabric of reality. But then he's just like, okay then. And he sits down and he's like, come on, Rose, let's enjoy the fireworks. And he's just smug in there. He's using reverse psychology on Yvonne Hartman. And the way David Tennant plays the 10th Doctor so playfully in that scene, the way, like, that stare that he does with that smile at the end of it as he's basically daring her. He's like, come on, yeah, do it, go on. After my warning, see if you can still activate the ghosts. To which Yvonne obviously doesn't. She delays the shift, as they call it. So, yeah. The twist then, the cliffhanger then, is that it turns out the Void ship isn't Cyberman technology, as four individuals, four Daleks, appear and make their way into the story, into Doomsday. Now, when I watched this story, first of all, just this story, I have the same impressions I do with Age of Steel and Rise of the Cybermen, in which I loved it when I first watched it. When I got in my teens, I started to absolutely hate this story and that story. But now I've grown older and matured out of the more selfish reasons. What do I think about this now? And for the Rise of the Cybermen, I think the Cybermen have done pretty decent there. Here, however, I feel like I am justified in my disappointment in the Cybermen here. The Cybermen in the first episode, they start off as pretty good. They are the main threat. We don't get a lot of the interesting dialogue that we get with the Cybermen, which is a complaint which I was worried about in my previous previous Cybermen story that we tackled. But here it comes into fruition. These Cybermen, in terms of personality, are just robots. And because of that, they don't have a lot of interesting things to say or do. You can feel Russell T Davies trying his best by giving them one or two scenes in which they do have, scenes, but A, it doesn't go anywhere, B, they're so short, and C, as soon as they're over, you completely forget and they become this military robot society again. Really, it's only two scenes I can think of. One Cyberman, the Cyber Leader, which, by the way, is nowhere near as cool as the David Banks Cyber Leader from the classic series. He tells the Doctor he is proof that his emotions are weakness. But the Doctor quickly flums up as like, I like Hope as well, Hope is good, as the alternate dimension Torchwood arrive, and Jake, who reappears and destroys the Cybermen in the room. That's it. That's all we get in terms of that discussion of proof that, the emotions are weak. We never see the Doctor's emotions get in confrontation here. There's also a scene in which the Cybermen give off a speech. They give off a demand to everybody. It's like, do not fear, we will remove fear. We will eliminate creed, sex, class, and everything. And then there's a scene in which, the Cyberman is he's like, I don't understand, I ordered everybody to stop. As the Doctor shouts at it, it's like, you're in their homes, they're in their streets, of course they're gonna fight! Great scene, but it's so goddamn short. It has very little impact. It doesn't have that grip, that we need from a story like this. And then we get into the main issue. As soon as the Cybermen, as soon as the Daleks get into the adventure, the Cybermen are basically droids. The great interaction, sure, there's some really great moments here, but it's mainly for the Daleks. This story, as soon as episode 2 airs, it is a Dalek story first. And it's the battle is so one-sided. The Cybermen don't destroy one Dalek. There's a scene in which there's thousands of Cybermen. In fact, they seem to be working with the humans, just all of a sudden, fighting 4 Daleks, and they don't even get to destroy one, making the Cybermen feel very weak by comparison, and seem like they're only there for plot convenience, for when the story needs them to. That's really disappointing. It's really disappointing, especially how the Cybermen, specifically the Cyber Leader, which is the first revived series story to have a Cyber Leader, and they're so underused, they're so underutilized, and the way that these Cybermen are interpreted means that there was very little room for the stuff that I love about the Cybermen to be in any more stories, apart from the first story that they appeared in the revived series, which is such a disappointment. But this story makes up for it with the Daleks. Russell T Davies loves the Daleks. You can feel it in this story. Here we get introduced to the cult of Skaro. 4 Daleks with names, one of them being the black cased leader. And they are bred to imagine, to think as the enemy thinks, just to find new ways of killing. These Daleks actually go back to a more traditional Daleks seen in the early 60s. Witty Daleks, Daleks with banter, Daleks with who can talk back and can be sarcastic in a way. There's some really great moments here. There's that scene in which the Daleks are talking to the Cybermen, and the Daleks are like, the Cybermen are only good at one thing, are only superior to Daleks in one thing. You are better at dying. That is just a fantastic line. I absolutely love it. And I love that every moment they have every opportunity to just devalue the Cybermen verbally. When they discover that the Cybermen, they say like the outline resembles that of the inferior race, the Cybermen, and they're constantly belittling them. It's bloody fantastic. There's also a great scene in which the Cybermen basically offer an alliance in the hope that they can combine their technologies together and create a race which could conquer the universe. Only for the Daleks, the xenophobic Daleks, to just be like, denied, bitch, and shoots both the Daleks. Brilliant. The Daleks in part 2 are very well utilized. They're funny, they're sarcastic, they have some great moments. There's a really great moment where the 10th Doctor comes in and he starts off all bumbly and stuff, and I didn't like that to begin with, because it felt like the Doctor wasn't taking the Daleks as serious as the rest of the story was. But then the Doctor uses every moment he does to belittle the Daleks, just as the Daleks belittle everyone else. There's a great moment directed, great direction, great written, great acted, in which we see the Daleks' viewpoint as the Doctor's face is really close up, and he says, and he basically discovers that they have this arc, the Genesis. That's not a Genesis arc. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called. But this device which needs a touch of a time traveler, but the Daleks can't touch it because, they're just blobs encasing. And the Doctor is like, basically stating it's like, that sense, that fact that you were from birth to death, you will never feel the sense of touch, has driven you mad. That explains your voice. No wonder you scream. That bit is so intense, and it's really get as the Daleks basically are like, you will touch the Ark, you will make it come to life. As the Doctor's like, no, what are you on about? As the Doctor summons an army of Cybermen. Again, the Doctor, as soon as the Daleks come out, the Doctor treats the Cybermen as a non-entity in terms of how he views monsters, and just uses them as a pawn to have this little but really cool battle, which is again really one-sided. It makes the Cybermen look really weak, but it makes the Daleks look really powerful. And I just always love stories where they only have a handful of Daleks, because I feel like it makes the Daleks seem a lot more powerful. Dalek from series 1, did this phenomenally, and here it is. That is also applies here with only 4 Daleks and just murdering just everyone they can see. But are there just 4 Daleks? Well, Mickey accidentally touches the Ark. He has travelled in the TARDIS, as we saw earlier on in Series 2. And so the thing is activated as it goes up into space, into the skyline of London, revealing that it is a Time Lord prison containing thousands upon thousands of Daleks, as the Daleks and Cybermen battle on top of Canary Wharf, as the Doctor has a plan. Now, his plan is to suck everything up into the void, but to keep Rose safe, he has to send her and trap her in the other universe with Mickey and Jackie and Pete Tyler. And I just love every moment of this interaction where the Doctor's like, right, you're just going to go off into another universe now. I'm going to save the day, but don't worry. And that's it. But Rose is like, that's not going to happen. I'm never going to leave you. But the Doctor, first of all, he seems to be blanking her out, as if to be like, this is just a other occasion. As long as you're safe, I don't care. We've had our time, that's it. And Rose is then, she shouts at her mother. She's like, no, I'm not going to leave the Doctor. And the Doctor just looks at her sadly, knowing that she will not give up on him. As you can see him taking the device that makes him swap between different realities. And whilst Rose backs up, puts it on Rose's neck as Pete Tyler teleports them all, with the exception of the Doctor, into the other universe. The Doctor gets everything set up, but Rose activates the device again, transporting her back into the main universe, into End Space, as it's called in the Doctor Who universe. And basically they got to hold on to this thing as the void sucks up Daleks and Cybermen because they're covered in void stuff. Bit convenient, but it works. We see the Cult of Skaro have an emergency temporal shift, so they can appear in the next series. And then we get one of the most iconic scenes in which Rose is hanging on for dear life as her fingers slip as the Doctor screams, Rose! David Tennant is acting his ass off in that scene, and it gives me absolute chills. But Rose is saved in the last minute by Pete Tyler as the void is trapped, is stopped for good, as the universe is saved and both realities are now safe from any sort of catastrophe in terms of multiple dimensions, and I guess Daleks and Cybermen as well. As we get a scene in which like Rose and the Doctor are crying. There's a great moment in which they're like feeling the wall as if like, can they hear each other through the wall, like it is from like another universe, but they cannot. That's just a really iconic little moment there. And then we get a scene which I'm not personally a fan of, in which the Doctor uses burns out a star to have the final interaction with Rose. As he says, he only gets 2 minutes with her, and Rose basically tells the Doctor that she loves him. Now, this all again depends on what you feel about Rose. If you like Rose, if you're a huge fan of Rose, then this scene makes you tear up inside, and you know, good for you if you enjoy this. But I'm someone who does not like Rose that very much. I found her a very irritating character at some times. Majority of times she was just a non-entity. And only really Father's Day did I really like her as a character. And here we still have those moments of the stuff of Rose I don't like in her character. It's only really with the Doctor's interaction with her mother do I really like the dynamics of the Doctor and companion, really. And we get a scene in which the Doctor's like, Rose Tyler, I probably saying I love you, as it fades off, and the Doctor's left in the TARDIS crying. He's forcefully has to say goodbye to someone who he loves in one way, shape or form, whether it was romantically or as just really good friends. In terms of this story, we will never know, but it's heavily implied he loved her in a romantic sense because she healed him from the Time War. I'm not too keen on that, but that is quickly forgotten as suddenly there's a bride as we get introduced to Donna Noble, played by Catherine Tate, leading into the next story. So that's Doomsday and Army of Ghosts. I just realised I said that the wrong way around. As well as the final 2 episodes of Tardisode. Overall, there's a lot to like here. It feels epic. It feels genuinely heart-racing. The Daleks in part 2 are amazing. The Cybermen in part 1 are okay, I guess. And the mystery's good. The stuff with Torchwood is good. But there are some things that I feel really weak in this story. Rose's character, I felt, like I said, I'm not someone who's keen on Rose, and this story being a Rose prominent story and the constant tease that this is the day that I will die, was kind of irritating watching back. The Cybermen were so underutilized and seemed to be a void of anything I like about them in this adventure. Sadly, something which would be repeated throughout the revival series. But overall, it is a hell of a good time. It's clearly blockbuster entertainment. Highly recommended. Just go watch it and make up your own mind. So there you go. That's Army of Ghosts, Doomsday, Tardisode 12 and Tardisode 13. So join me next time as the Doctor has to find out what's happening with this woman who's just appeared in his TARDIS. So I'll see you next time for The Runaway Bride. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!